Chris Lee and Chase Robinson here to preview Georgia's matchup with Georgia Tech. That is a Friday game. You can catch that on 6:30 Central, ABC or ESPN Plus. BetOnline favors Georgia by 19. Bulldogs are the home team. Over under of 53 points as of Tuesday morning, according to our friends at BetOnline. That makes for an implied final score. Georgia 36, Georgia Tech 17. My model favors Georgia by 20.5. The Bulldogs firmly in the driver's seat for the playoff, going to make the SEC title game. But Georgia Tech, a pesky team that took down Florida State earlier in the year when we thought that was a big win, and have taken down, I think, Miami ever since. So Tech on the right game can beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. Let's jump straight into the matchup, starting with Georgia Tech's offense against Georgia's defense. What stands out to you here, Chase?
Well, I mean, a name that SEC fans will know is the quarterback of Georgia Tech. That's Haynes King, who spent some time at Texas A&M. He's been battling a shoulder injury, though, the better part of the last month for Georgia Tech. And so you don't see him on the field all the time. He goes in and out. He's a running quarterback, so when they're going to either do some play action or just some running, he'll be in there. Aaron Philo is a guy who's come in. He's done a lot of the heavy passing. You'll see him more on the passing downs, and it's worked for the most part with both of those guys in there for or rotating those guys in and out for Georgia Tech. But question is, will it work against a team like Georgia? And that's something I'll be watching. Jamal Haynes, a running back, for those guys, Georgia Tech, 763 yards. He's scored 9 times this season. Haynes King has 8 rushing touchdowns. He's also thrown for over 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns. But again, that injury has brought him down somewhat. And Philo's a guy who, again, he's been in and out, just hasn't been able to get much going offensively. So they're not at full strength. And Haynes King has been good at times. Just this injury has really set him back, Chris.
Yeah, and Georgia's defense has not been as good against the run. It's given up 4.6 per rushing play, 5.2 per passing play. That's pretty elite. Georgia forces turnovers over 2% of the time. It may not be vintage Georgia's defense, but Georgia's played maybe the toughest schedule in the country on top of everything else. So it is still a really, really good one.
It is, yeah. And I guess we don't, just looking at the scores, everything, we don't see this as a really good Georgia defense. We've seen them struggle at times, but I really like Georgia, and I think because of Georgia Tech's kind of shakiness on offense, that's definitely a bonus for Georgia defensively.
Let's flip sides of the matchup. Before we do, reminder, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, including this one between Georgia and Georgia Tech, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. I guess what stands out to me about Georgia's offense, the running attack, feels like their backfield's been banged up. But the thing that was really holding Georgia back, even in some of the games it won, was Carson Beck. Carson Beck has played a lot more like the Carson Beck we thought we'd see before the season, and that is really bad news for Georgia's opponents.
It is, and he's, again, we saw signs of him struggling, and the interceptions, the turnovers, like that was not him. I feel like he's back to playing himself. He has time to work. Thought the offensive line's doing much better, and so yeah, we're starting to see him get in his rhythm and get comfortable, which is a dangerous thing.
Yeah. What do we expect from Georgia Tech's defense?
This is where this has been the issue, especially in the secondary for Georgia Tech. I thought they did a good job when they beat Miami. They did some really good things. They put a lot of pressure on Cam Ward and things like that. But other than that game, they give up points. The secondary, pretty much every team they played has been able to get into the secondary, and that's what's been shaky. A lot of youth going into the season for Georgia Tech in the secondary, but I think that's been the biggest issue for those guys this year at Georgia Tech. And so look for Georgia to exploit that youth in the secondary on Saturday for Georgia Tech.
Picks and why, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I just think Georgia's the better team. I think Georgia could very easily get on a roll here and make a deep run. And it starts now. You know, they've locked in their spot in the SEC championship. They have had, they've wins in this series a lot lately. I feel like it doesn't stop. I think a nice win for Georgia on Friday night.
Yeah, rivalry game, anything can happen. Tech has played Georgia closer than you would have expected with lesser teams in the past. Still, it's Kirby Smart as a 19-point favorite. Lose this one, lose the SEC title game, you're staying at home. Got a lot to play for. Give me Kirby Smart and Georgia in that spot. We'll be here to wrap it up afterwards. Best way to catch it, hit that subscribe button, enable your notifications so you know when we go live. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.